Colorado State University Chancellor Tony Frank. Welcome on the Business Brief.
Thanks for having me, Ryan.
Let's get right to business. Chancellor Frank, CSU recently released its first system-wide economic impact study quantifying the system's unique contributions to the Colorado economy. Between your three campuses and your students, the system fuels nearly 23,000 jobs and more than 237 million in state income and sales tax revenue annually. That's significant. What motivated you to do this study, and how does the findings shape your view of the role universities play in our state and local economy?
Well, Colorado State's been a part of Colorado for 150 years, and we've had a big impact on Colorado's economy in various ways throughout that time. And I think a lot of people are familiar with the impact of CSU in Fort Collins. But over the years, CSU Pueblo has grown into a larger university impacting the Pueblo economy. And as we brought CSU Global Campus online, we've never really taken the three institutions together. We've never taken a look at what those nearly 60,000 students that toss nearly $500 million back into the Colorado economy and the faculty members and the researchers that are around them do. The research economic impact alone coming out of these three campuses is over $1 billion. So we wanted to take a look at what these three campuses in sum did and see if we were right that it had a substantial impact on Colorado's economy. And it turns out that about 3% of Colorado's tax revenues total come from Colorado State University graduates, because a lot of our graduates stay in state. And I think a lot of people would be surprised to know that 1 in 25 workers in Colorado has a CSU degree.
Yeah, I find it interesting that we don't always think about the economic impact of our higher education institutions, but it makes sense. The people you all educate that shape our workforce, the money you spend on research, the contractors you all hire, the sports competitions that draw in fans, and the local businesses, as you said earlier, that depend on your employees and students. Again, underlining what you said earlier, study found that they spend more than 435
Yeah.
million on goods and services in Colorado's communities. Simply amazing. Now,
I think Colorado taxpayers put a lot into these institutions, right? Especially over time. The physical plant that we all have, what Colorado taxpayers have done over years to establish these institutions, taxpayers got a right to wonder what the return on that investment is. And part of what these reports do are they demonstrate that there is a great economic return as well as the social return that a university brings.
so let's follow up on that. Now, you're quoted in a release as saying, we learned from the Great Recession that communities that are home to a college or a university rebound more quickly, and that is a strength for all of Colorado. How does that translate to a post-COVID economic recovery?
Right, that's a great question. We did see in the Great Recession that communities that had a college or university went into recession later. They went into it in a more shallow manner, and they came out earlier. They led the recovery. And so part of what we were thinking about when we approached how to trim budgets due to the economic impacts of the pandemic was how to keep as many of our employees on the payroll contributing to the economy as possible. Almost all of our three campuses are the largest employers in their region. And so we're fond of bragging that when we hire someone, that contributes about 3 to 3.5 jobs into the local economy. Well, that ratchet spins both ways. When we lay someone off, it impacts 3 to 3.5 jobs within the economy. So we took an approach where we took reserves that we set up after the Great Recession. We refinanced and took advantage of low interest rates. And we were able to take those funds and really apply them to keep our payroll intact. And we thought, as a public entity, rather than simply trimming workforce, dropping expenses to meet our dropped revenues, if we could use reserves and things like that as a bridge until revenue started to come back. In other words, when our customers, our students started to come back into the classrooms and enroll, that we could have a very positive impact on the economies of our communities and indeed the state more broadly, both in terms of limiting the economic impact of the pandemic-induced recession, and then hopefully helping to lead the recovery as we did after the Great Recession.
Workforce talent retention was another area that stood out to me, with 50% of students who moved to Colorado to attend CSU choosing to stay after graduating, of course, adding to our skilled workforce. How do you view CSU's current and future role in helping retain highly educated graduates in our state?
Well, I think that Colorado does a great job of keeping our highly educated graduates from all our universities here. That's why we're all here, right? We love living in Colorado and the Colorado lifestyle, and so that's a huge advantage we have. But I think if we do our jobs as universities as well, we're turning out graduates with the skills that are needed for the 21st century workforce. And if we're turning out the right people, and the employers are obviously here, look at the pre-pandemic employment rates and things like that. These new graduates are going to want to stay, and that's going to help grow Colorado's economy and build prosperity for everyone. I'm glad to be a part of that cycle.
A personal touch to wrap up. What would Chancellor Tony Frank tell yourself, say the 22-year-old Tony Frank, who's about to graduate university and enter today's global economy?
Well, the first thing I'd tell the 22-year-old version of me is the type of large animal veterinary practice you're about to go into isn't going to exist in 10 years. That whole segment of the agricultural economy is going to change, and change very dramatically. And in that is probably, I think, an important lesson, right? One of the things that comes with education is the ability to learn throughout one's lifetime, to adapt, and to change your skill set. And we see that in today's workforce more than we ever have. The average graduate now will hold multiple jobs throughout their career. The era of going to one employer and staying there is largely a thing of the past. And yet there's nothing that is such a good return on investment as that college education. It's a great deal for the student. We know it in terms of unemployment rates. We know it in terms of salaries. We know it in terms of things as basic as life satisfaction index, as polled by Gallup. We know that it's a good deal for the student, that in Colorado, about half of our students, CSU I should say, about half of our students graduate without any debt whatsoever. And those who graduate with debt graduate with around $25,000, a very manageable debt level given the economic impact of that degree. And we know they attain that very efficiently on behalf of the state of Colorado. Colorado has the most efficient higher education system in the United States. We produce a degree or credential for fewer taxpayer dollars than any other state in the country. It's a good deal for the students. It's a good deal for the state. And then those students take those higher college-related incomes, and the tax revenues on those repay that state investment in between 3 and 4 years. Higher education is a good investment for the state. And I would remind the 22-year-old version of myself to keep going to school. It'll make a difference for you.
There you go. I want a quick hat tip and a word of bravo and kudos to you, Chancellor Frank, and the CSU team. According to the report, CSU Fort Collins' massive mobilization around COVID-19 research has ranked it in the top 10 universities in the world working on research and cures related to COVID-19. So we thank you for the work you all are doing. Chancellor Tony Frank, Dr. Tony Frank, thanks for joining us. Best wishes to you, the CSU team, and all of your students and alumni.
Thank you. Take care.